Howdy, Banger Pals. Blayne Smith joining you for another Overkill Reviews Bangers Weekly Metal Review Show. This week, we're covering a band that some of you might be familiar with. Yep, this week I get to talk about Smoulder's Violent Creed of Vengeance, out April 21st, which is this Friday on Cruz Del Sur Music. Smoulder is, of course, our Sarah's band. That's a confusing way of saying that. Despite her and Sean recently relocating to Finland, they've managed to keep the band together with the boys still left in Toronto and put out a new record, which is the follow-up to their incredibly well-received debut in 2019, and I have to review it. Will Sarah ever talk to me again after I do this? It's only one way to find out. So, 2/5 of the band moved to relaxing rural Finland and then crank out a record twice as fast as the previous one? What the hell? Comparing album closer epics, you'd think it was the opposite. They're topping their previous 9-minute ender with a near 10-minute journey, but even that has a ton more energy in it. Well, I like a little bit of everything. My preference is definitely for faster heavy metal, so I'm eating good over here. And it's not just a personal preference. I actually think the band itself really has a talent for the faster stuff, as evidenced by Spellforger, which is easily the shortest and fastest song they've ever put out and is one of my favorites in their catalog. I don't think many of the band members, except for maybe Sean, has really explored doing a faster project, and I don't know whether I just want the next record to be all tracks like Spellforger or whether them to do a side project where it's just speed metal or something, but please give me more tracks like Spellforger, and I'll give you a track like Spellforger by playing a bit of Spellforger for you. If you're a regular Banger TV viewer, you probably already know that everyone in the band is an absolute nerd, and that's good, because if you're listening to an epic heavy metal record, you're probably an absolute nerd. And if you are, there's a real feast on this record for you. Obviously, album theme and lyrical content is going to be giving you all that good stuff, but it's the attention to detail in every aspect that really has this kind of nerd one-upmanship quality to it. Track 5 has a narrated passage by sci-fi fantasy legend Michael Moorcock, which is, a real double feather in the cap of sci-fi fantasy nerd as well as heavy metal nerd. Like, oh, you covered a Blue Oyster Cult song on your record? That's cute. We just straight up have a guy that worked with them talking on ours. And as is now customary for Smoulder, they have another absolute legend in Michael Whelan, providing them with a 100% flawless album cover. And I need to point out that if you look at their merch, they have the album cover reworked 3 different ways, all looking fantastic. Look at this stuff. Yeah, I understand that stuff doesn't have anything to do with the music, but if you are a metal fan and you find a record where the music is good, it feels so amazing to just be able to dive headfirst and fully embrace an album through all these different mediums. And I'll always salute a band, regardless of whether I know them or not, for doing that kind of stuff. It's a great thing to do. It lets us really just go full fan mode on things, which is awesome. Speaking of going full fan mode, do you want to go full fan mode on us? Well, we have a Patreon campaign. You can head over there, support us, toss us a couple bucks. You get access to Sam Dunn's podcast, our monthly tip sheets where we give you even more records to listen to, as well as some other goodies. And I can just ask you to do this as opposed to asking you to let someone send you a razor every month. Speaking of nerds, bass players, gotta dwell on the stellar job Adam does in writing and performing heavy metal bass that's as fun to listen to as any other instrument on the record. The tone is impeccable, constantly demanding your attention while never crossing over into that dreaded fart bass territory that can sometimes come along with a prevalent bass track, though that part should come as no surprise given that we are finding another record graced by the mixing of Mr. Super Producer himself, Arthur Risk. The bass on the record just really provides a great counterpoint to the guitars because frequently they're handing off focal points on tracks like Talisman and the Blade, sharing center stage like the dirty socialists you know they are, instead of being over top of each other. Have a listen. Smoulder recently shared a review for the album that called Sarah's voice Unacquired Taste, which is kind of an unnecessary thing to say in an epic heavy metal review because that's basically a hallmark of the genre, though I don't think acquired taste is quite the right term. I think it would more be a love or hate thing because people seem to have responded immediately to her voice, and a good portion of people love it. Regardless, though, that is kind of what's great about epic heavy metal. It really gives each band a distinct flavor, and if you find a flavor you like, it's great because it fills a hole that no other band will ever touch. If you don't like her voice, I do think on this record, the production might actually help you kind of get over that because her voice is mixed more in the middle of the track, kind of blending with the instruments, almost like a black metal production more than sitting on top like a traditional heavy metal record. But regardless, it doesn't really matter because it seems like a lot of people love her voice, and obviously I'm a fan as well. I've always found her voice great. If I did have to give a criticism on the previous record, it would be that I found the cadence of her songwriting a little awkward. To my pleasant surprise, though, that's mostly gone on this record. It crops up every now and then, but it's completely gone on the faster tracks, and since the record is mostly faster tracks, it's mostly gone. And in fact, not only that, I mentioned Spellforger off the top, and in Spellforger, not only does her cadence not bother me, I specifically enjoy her cadence of the chorus. So it's great to see the person I know the best in the band progressing as an artist. And if you were already on board with what she's doing, I think she's gotten better at it. So I think that makes the record better than the previous one. And yeah, I guess that brings me to conclusion time. I think everybody on the record did a better job than on the previous record. It feels like a tighter, punchier follow-up to something that everyone was already pretty jazzed on. Obviously, there's a bit of a conflict of interest in me reviewing this, as Sarah is my friend and coworker. So how do I fairly score this record? Well, I do think it's better than the previous one. So instead of me scoring the previous one, if we just go over to Metal Archives, the first record has 7 reviews, which is a lot on the website because you actually have to write a review. You don't just get to leave a number, rate your music. So it provides kind of an accurate picture of what people feel about that record, and it's sitting at 85%. So if I feel this is a little bit better, that would bump it up to about 90, and do the math, that converts to 4.5 out of 5 skulls, and those skulls are absolute nerds, as we've established. But before I leave you, of course, I have the shout-out section for you to give you a nice little charcuterie board with the Smoulder record. We've got 3 more records that pair with it beautifully. I already mentioned them in the tip sheet over on Patreon, but look, if we're talking about weird vocals and great album covers, gotta mention Blazon, Rite, Wild Rites, and Ancient Songs on Gates of Hell Records that came out April 14th. Coming out the same same day as Smoulder, you've got Tanith, Voyage on Metal Blade Records. Another great female vocalist doing some fantastic 70s-y hard rock, heavy metal kind of thing. And we got some Doom in here too, so I won't leave the Doom fans out. UDOL releasing Regne independently back on April 7th. Another great record, another great album cover. So there you go. That's it. That's all for you. What did you think of the new Smoulder record? Everybody really had an opinion on the first one, but the opinion was mostly that it was great. So is it better for you as well? Let me know. I'm curious. I really want to know how people feel because, of course, I want my friends to do well. So let me know. See ya. Bye.